So the cabinet of the Agriculture Commissioner. Good morning, thank you for coming. And we'll have then Benjamin Lammert. He's a farmer. He is also a member of the Avril group that produces biofuels, and he's the president of the Green Energy Platform. Good morning, Benjamin, welcome. And then we'll have Piero Gattoni. Piero Gattoni is also a farmer, and he is the president of the Italian Consortium for Biogas. Thank you. Good to have you with us today, Piero. So we'll have, after each speaker takes the floor, at the end of Mr. Piero Gattoni, we'll have a period for questions and answers. So I invite all the participants that wish to press the button on questions and answers. They should by now be familiar with how this goes, and put forward questions that they would like to ask the participants, the speakers. And at the end, the very end, Ms. Anne Sander will wrap up with her final comments. And we plan to end before or at the maximum at noon. So let me not waste more time with my remarks. And Ms. Sander, we know the importance of the European Parliament and yours in the European Parliament, so we are very keen to have your introductory remarks on this subject. Please.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to welcome you to this online webinar on the contribution of Europe's agriculture to energy decarbonization. To begin, first of all, I would like to warmly thank Farm Europe, you, Jorge, but also Yves Madre, for organizing this webinar, and also our speakers for being here today to explain to us the opportunities raised by our agriculture. Our exchange will be precious for all of us as an upstream work before next Commission's proposal as part of the Green Deal. We hear a lot today about how our agriculture produces greenhouse gas emission and how it could be more sustainable. However, we do not talk enough, I think, about the opportunities offered by our agriculture in Europe to fight directly against climate change with concrete solutions. If it's time to give ourselves the necessary means to achieve a more sustainable and carbon neutral Europe, we will have to be aware of all solutions that could offer environmental advances. Here, Europe agriculture can play a decisive role in achieving the ambitious goal of the Green Deal. Many agri-food sectors could lead us to sustainable and innovative solutions for a more neutral carbon Europe. We should keep them on board and encourage them to do their best. Our agriculture and our producers are key players and allies in our fight against climate change. Wood, biogas, biofuel, all these sectors offer opportunities that will be needed to achieve our ambitious goals. More than 20% of the production of renewable energy is provided by agriculture. The European agriculture has already provided good and efficient solutions to reduce carbon emissions with biofuel. The decarbonization of transport will involve the development of biofuels mixed, adapted to the different type of vehicles and uses. More than environmental opportunity, it's also a real economic opportunity for our producers as a direct income. Moreover, it also contributes to the development and the dynamism of some European regions. I can speak for my region, for example, in east of France, but everywhere it's right. And it can give the opportunity to job creation, including and especially in rural areas. As part of the Green Deal, the European Commission is now considering a revision of the EU Renewable Energy Directive, called REDII, to help achieve our climate ambition for 2030 and 2050. After a public consultation on REDII revision, we are now awaiting the Commission proposal in the upcoming months. More than 37,000 contributions have been received, showing the importance of this issue. European biofuel contribute to reduce greenhouse gas emissions more than 60%. And most important, they achieve this important environmental goal without any negative collateral effects, either on deforestation and on food production. It's important to underline that our European biofuels production did not have a negative impact on food and feed production. On the contrary, in a way, biofuels have helped to provide some economic stability where necessary. For example, they encourage production where EU was dependent from other third countries. Biofuels are an essential level for food sovereignty, thanks to the production of proteins. This is also an important aspect which has to be taken into consideration for the REDII revision. The European Parliament has already called for the implementation of a European protein plan. And we have to be consistent in our renewable energy legislation on that point. Moreover, REDII aims to combat deforestation due to the production of high-risk biofuels, such as palm oil, for use in European biofuels. It established a phase out of these biofuels. However, some loopholes on that issue can also be reduced. REDII revision should not be missed and should encourage our agriculture to provide us concrete solutions for decarbonization. This issue clearly attests the effort and the key role of our producers. European legislation should encourage them more and more, and we have to choose a promoting strategy for better income for our producers, a promoting strategy for job and growth. That's why the recent development on the EU taxonomy for sustainable activities regulation will also be an important tool to achieve the environmental goals of our continent. It's a crucial moment now to demonstrate that the Green Deal is a real sustainable growth plan. We need to work all together to encourage and stimulate new opportunities for agriculture and its contribution to energy decarbonization. And I'm sure that we will have a lot of ideas this morning during our exchange. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anne-Sander, for very clearly setting the scene for today's debate, and also to leave very good markers for the debate. Now, I'm going to turn to you, Jorge Pinto Antunes. You are a member of the Commissioner for Agriculture Cabinet, and we know the importance of the Commission in the debate, in presenting proposals, in engineering the whole debate. The focus of your Commission and yourself is on agriculture, but agriculture is our pillar. So we are very interested in having your comments as well.
Thank you, João, and good morning to everyone, and specific to my fellow speakers in this debate, because I'm also very keen to hear the different opinions and experiences in this area. And thank you also to Farm Europe for the invitation. I'm actually quite happy to be here today because I think we are in a positive momentum as regards the contribution of agriculture to what are our climate goals, and looking at how we can leverage some of the opportunities that are offered by our European Green Deal ambition. So I think it is a nice story for us. It's a good narrative, and I think I would like to start there. We have, with the European Green Deal, basically an ambitious direction of travel. The climate neutrality goals by 2050, which will be enshrined in the climate law, but also the higher ambition from the 2030 new climate targets and the new plan there, open up, I think, a lot of opportunities for different sectors, because we know that all sectors will need to contribute towards this European Green Deal ambition and also targets. Of course, we have been putting in place a number of policies and strategies to help member states, but also provide the necessary guidance to operators and the stability that is required. I would recall in this aspect, for instance, the tools that have been put in place by the governance of the Energy Union, and namely the National Energy and Climate Plans, which help us to understand how member states plan to meet their targets and how member states plan to leverage some of the opportunities raised by the climate goal ambitions. Last year, we had also two different strategies, which I think are particularly important for our debate. We had the energy systems integration communication, which basically identifies how we should be addressing some of the barriers that prevent citizens, but also industry, to embrace cleaner energy alternatives. And the other one, which I think was also important for our discussion today, was the methane strategy, which also identified some options for us to accelerate emission reduction, but also equally important for the effective management of methane emissions and how we can generate revenues and investments in rural areas by addressing this emission, this particular set of emissions. So, like I said, I think we have the legal stability, which is critical for operators, of course, if they are considering investments. We have the direction of travel, but we also have, I think, equally important, the necessary checks and balances in terms of the sustainability criteria, but also the thresholds on indirect land use change as part of the renewable energy directive, which provides us certainty that what we are doing is actually contributing to our agenda. And equally important, of course, we have also substantial financial incentives. These are part of the CAP and will continue to be part of the CAP, of the new CAP. We also have an agenda there in terms of support and fiscal incentives in terms of the research agenda, which I think it's also important for us to consider. Having said that, of course, there are some challenges that you will need to consider. I think first one, I would put it broadly as a challenges, but of course, we will need to see in June, when we have the package on the 55, what will actually be the exact architecture that we will all have to deal with. So a bit of uncertainty there, but I think it will soon become much more clear what is our intentions and what is the context, the detail of the context that operators, member states, and also stakeholders will have to deal with. And I think it's possibly also equally important for us in terms of the challenges to address, of course, what are some of the stakeholders' concerns. And this, of course, has been a debate in the past as regards the competing claims in terms of food and feed, which to a large extent have been addressed by a number of studies. But it's possible that in some parts and in some stakeholders there are still some concerns, some perceptions there that, of course, we will need to address. I think for us and from the side of Cabinet of Commissioner Wojciechowski, of course, we see the CAP as very much being an important tool in this agenda. As part of the CAP, the post-2020 framework, we will have, of course, two specific objectives. Specific objective number one, which calls for the development of the bioeconomy, but also a specific objective 4, which calls for the promotion of sustainable energy, which I think will be key in supporting an agenda on decarbonization and the contribution of agriculture to the decarbonization goals of the EU. The Commission proposal for the post-2020 CAP gives, of course, member states some degree of flexibility on how they should address the challenges, but how also they should leverage some of the opportunities that they see out there. This will possibly be illustrated to a large extent in terms of the eco schemes, which are still being elaborated. And the degree of elaboration will to a large extent also be the decision of member states. But it's a tool that it's there, and it's a tool that will definitely, I would think, prove critical in this agenda. But of course, also more broadly, as part of the CAP, we will also have, as part of the Rural Development Program, a lot of tools which will support investment, innovation, knowledge transfer, but also things like advisory services, which could help farmers and could help agricultural operators to leverage some of the opportunities in this area. As part of our discussions with member states, of course, we've already asked them as part of the CAP strategic plans to take into account in their strategic plans how they plan to address some of the targets that are part of the EU European Green Deal acquis. And we've also issued recommendations last year to their draft plans, where I think we already point to the need to ensure that some of the challenges are correctly addressed, some of the opportunities are leveraged, and I think equally important, pass on the sign that the Commission will ensure that the identified potential in this regard is adequately supported by member states. Of course, we already had a bit of elaboration on the sort of the broader agenda that is out there, and I think Madame Anne Sander already referred to this. REDII, part of our alignment with the higher ambition of the European Green Deal will be recast. So we will be part of the Fit for 55 package. We will know a little bit more where we will land in terms of the REDII. The Commission last year, of course, set out the roadmap, and more recently, of course, we were also asked for the views of a number of stakeholders. So we had a public consultation, which was closed February this year, and I think it's we are now looking at the results of these public consultations, but I think it's interesting to realize that from the part of stakeholders, there is a clear recognition of the importance of renewable energy to deliver on the EU climate ambitions. So 98% of the respondents referred to this. This is some of the data that I got from my colleagues looking at the replies. 43% of the respondents actually also indicated that the targets should be in line with the climate target plan. And 37 of those that responded to the public consultation actually also said that we should have higher targets. And the broad majority mentioned that such targets should be binding at both EU but also national level. And for our discussion today, also interesting to realize that 41% of the respondents mentioned the need to accelerate the production of sustainable biogas and also methane as part of this agenda. We are, of course, finalizing the impact assessment. I think this month still it will be sent to the regulatory scrutiny board. So we are still in time to do any necessary adjustments if needed be. But to say that the work is ongoing, and I think it's progressing quite well. Madame Sander also mentioned the EU taxonomy, which of course is part of the broader agenda and will have obviously impacts in terms of our discussions on the agriculture contribution towards the energy agenda of the EU. We scheduled to adopt our delegated act on the climate objectives still this next month in April, and of course this will pave the way for the 4 other environmental objectives, which most probably will be adopted in 2022, not this year. Let's see where we pan out. But I think it's important to realize, of course, that the work and the EU taxonomy will have repercussions in terms of the screening and the proofing of operations, of investments, which will probably need to be aligned with what we have in terms of a technical screening criteria as part of the EU taxonomy. So important for us to realize what will this be. But I would also want to highlight a number of other initiatives which are ongoing or which are forthcoming, which will also, I think, provide the necessary impetus, but also the context what we'll be doing as part of the contribution of agriculture towards our energy goals and climate neutrality goals specifically. In June of this year, Commissioner Wojciechowski will present a long-term vision for rural areas. This will be a communication which will set out what is the Commission's view for the rural areas by 2040. This is being prepared. We've also conducting a number of preparatory work, but also discussions with stakeholders. But I think it's important to realize that as part of any initiatives that we will be proposing under this long-term vision on rural areas, there will of course be what I would call a bioeconomy, a bioenergy angle, because we will need to leverage this agenda as part of the broader economic, social, but also environmental sustainability goals that rural areas might have in terms of their aspirations for 2040. It is so important and something that maybe will provide us an indication of where member states are looking at in terms of this debate. We will receive, of course, the recovery and resilience plans as part of the EU next generation EU tools. So as part of the recovery and resilience facility, we are of course highlighted to member states the opportunities for investments in this area. And even if at this stage is still preliminary, as the plans are not there yet, but we've seen a little bit some of the plans, some of the drafts of these plans, and I think it's encouraging to realize that a sizable number of member states are foreseeing investments in terms of the bioeconomy, in terms of energy efficiency, but also renewable energy. So this, I think, provides us with an optimistic outlook in terms of sort of a more broader agenda. Finally, I would, before I finish, I think I would also like to highlight that at some point, we still have not decided exactly when, but we are, of course, working on what will be a carbon farming initiative. And to a large extent, this will be also an initiative that will draw on some of the opportunities that we see that agriculture could use and could bring forward as part of our more broader agenda on a sustainable economy for Europe, but also for the agricultural sector. So in a nutshell, and perhaps a bit superficially, a couple of initiatives that point to the interest that we have in this area, and a couple of initiatives and specific measures that point, I believe, to a bright outlook, I would say, in terms of these areas. So I will end here and look forward to the discussions later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jorge, and we appreciated your very positive narrative on the future of sustainable energy produced by our agriculture, and on what could be the role, supportive role of the common agriculture policy and other Commission initiatives to that end. And you also mentioned briefly that there are a number of challenges in terms of perceptions. And I think that gives me a good opening to turn to my next speaker, Benjamin Lammert. So you are in a very privileged position because you are both a farmer and a member of a group that produces biofuels. So very glad again to have you here with us today. And I know you are concerned about explaining well what agriculture how agriculture can contribute to this European Green Deal and to decarbonize energy. Please, you have the floor, Benjamin.
Thank you, Joao. Yes, this is the point I'm going to share with you, and thank you to all the participants and speakers who are here today to contribute to enriching the debate on the contribution of agriculture to achieving the objectives of the Green Deal. So as you said, I am a farmer. I grow wheat, maize, and soybean in the eastern part of France at the German border in Alsace. And I'm also a member of the Avril group, which produces biodiesel from rape and sunflower beans. And I'm also president of this platform, this green energy platform, which is hosting this event today. So I think we all share the goals of the Green Deal, and we are proud that Europe has the most ambitious program in the world in terms of reducing greenhouse gases emissions. And agriculture is an active part of this process, and we want to be proactively involved in this tectonic shift proposed by the Commission, the carbon neutrality in 2050. Since the agriculture sector is the first victim of climate change and extreme weather, and as a farmer, I could testify in this way with many examples. We have often seen agriculture, as said and Sander, described by the negative narrative that exclusively underlines the environmental damage of the agricultural sector. A real agri-bashing to which we farmers must respond with facts and figures, while at the same time stressing the efforts made by the agricultural sector to increase its sustainability. Many efforts in terms of sustainability of agricultural practices have been made and will continue to be made, also encouraged by the coming common agricultural policy you explained to us, Jorge. Today, however, I would like to focus my speech on the transport sector and why biofuels that come from European crops are essential for the decarbonization of this sector. And I'm not referring only to first generation biofuels, which are the most developed ones, but also to biomethane coming from intermediate crops or sequential or double cropping, which deserve to be encouraged more to make sure that agriculture can not only store more carbon in the soil, but also produce fuel and food at the same time. And I think Piero will explain to you a little more details in this matter. I would like to remind you that the Commission has indicated a target of 24% renewables for the transport sector by 2030. And at the same time, we know oil maintains an overwhelming grip on the transport sector with 94% share, and the rest is biofuel with almost 6% and renewable energy with 0.6%. And we do not understand how this ambitious goal can be achieved without using the full potential of EU-sourced biofuels. The European Commission recently published its Renewable Energy Progress Report, in which it highlights the positive contribution of domestically sourced biofuels in reducing GHG emissions and in creating jobs. So let me read you what the Commission clearly states in its report. No correlation has been observed between food prices and biofuel demand. And it is estimated that the biofuels industry employed 208,000 people in 2018, being the third largest renewable energy job creator after wind energy and solid biomass. The 2018 revision of the REDII directive called for 32 decarbonization target in 2030 and 40% in the transport sector, and a first generation's biofuels cap at 7%, while high ILUC risk biofuels are progressively eliminated starting in 2023. Within its Fit for 55, you mentioned, Jorge, proposal in the new RED revision is to propose its new decarbonization objective to be between 38 and 40% in 2030, while the specific transport sector objective should grow up to 24%. At the same time, the Commission persists with its intent to limit the contribution of conventional EU biofuels. The Commission is trying to phase out or reduce the current cap EU crop biofuel, as in the last revision in the RED, in the recent communication on aviation biofuels, and in the Green Deal. Quite the opposite. It is crystal clear that if the EU wants to be serious and to achieve its Fit for 55 goal, its strategy should integrate EU-sourced biofuels, which production is controlled and sustainable, while imported biofuels, which contribute to deforestation, should be banned from being considered within the RED. Moreover, let's be clear, speaking about environment, 1 ton of carbon is 1 ton of carbon. Using multipliers is just misleading and doesn't do any good to the environment. I'm afraid that it is just not the right kind of incentive. The same when it comes to advanced biofuel. The difference should be made urgently between truly advanced biofuels and others which are not made at all from waste, or even which are just disguised import palm oil. It is time for transparency, for realism, and for honesty if we want to achieve our ambitions. I would now like to highlight with some slides what EU-sourced biofuels are truly and the benefits they can provide to Europeans in terms not only of decarbonizing transport, but also for the development of rural areas, the upkeeping of farmers' incomes, and to cover the vegetable protein deficit. So let me share with you this presentation. Could you see it well? Okay. So first of all, it has been proved that there are no negative effects on food production, environment, or price with the EU biofuel production. Because why this production increased, more food was produced, the global food prices have gone down, agricultural land was secured, even the EU forest cover has expanded, and we had in EU a better trade balance. The biofuels from EU also reduced emissions and can still do it in an economic way. Because, as I said, while the transport sector still relies heavily on fossil fuels, biofuels are the main renewable source in transport, 9 times more than electricity at this time. It brought a total emission savings about 12 million tons of CO2 in 2016. It can more than halve the carbon emission of the existing vehicle fleet. With a lowest average carbon abatement cost in comparison to the other sectors, and it requires no new investment because the infrastructure is already existing. Another advantage of EU biofuels is to strengthen the food security, because we have in Europe a chronic deficit of plant protein, in a rich matter of protein, and we import more than 70% of our vegetable protein supply, and we still depend on imports of animal protein. But on the other hand, every ton of biofuel produced in the EU produces another ton of high protein feed product, and it reduces also the Europe's protein deficit, and it results each year in more than 13 million tons of protein-rich product. Also, European biofuels create income and jobs in the rural areas, because this production produced by the farmers create tens of thousands direct and indirect jobs we have on our territories. It provided an additional and stable domestic market opportunity. It generated revenue and added value, and it offered economic stability to the struggling new farmers in the crisis we had in the last years. So I think this example, also confirmed by the Commission report I mentioned formerly, a really good argument to defend the biofuels sourced from Europe and to make a great distinction between what is domestic and what is imported. So thank you, Joao.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm still seeing your last slide, but we can move on. And it was important that you worked on the perception side, and it's very important to have the right narrative. And I think to debunk the negative arguments and the negative stories on biofuels is as important as highlighting the benefits. Now, I'm going to turn to another farmer, not only a farmer, but also the president of the Italian consortium of biogas. And we know that biogas is very important in Italy. You are leading Europe in that respect. So, Piero, you are also in a very privileged position to highlight us on the benefits of biogas and the challenges that you face. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Joao. Thank you to Farm Europe to invite me and have this really important discussion. Yes, I'm a farmer. I'm producing Parmigiano Reggiano, and I've been investing 10 years ago in anaerobic digestion plants in my farm. And let's say that today I'm still producing Parmigiano Reggiano, and I'm producing also biomethane from my farm. So we think that producing energy and food and energy is not only feasible. It's not only feasible, but it's necessary to increase the competitiveness of our farm. But when I started, sorry, just to change the slide. Okay, so let's say that when I started to produce bioenergy 10 years ago, we were in a different momentum. Basically, in Europe, the main goal was to decarbonize the energy sector. So we want to achieve a target of renewable energy in every sector. But we don't have to forget that now, after Paris, everything is changed. Basically, now we have a different urgency, that is the climate crisis, and everybody has to do his little own part to contribute. And we believe that also agriculture needs to do his bit. But how we have to face these goals? Because sometimes it's not really clear. We think that is something, I use the word of James Hansen, which is one of the best climate change theory. And he pointed out that to stabilize CO2 in the atmosphere at safety level, let's say below the 2 degrees, we need obviously to decarbonize everything that we can trying to electrify the more we can. But at the same time, we have to recarbonize with renewable carbon what isn't electrifiable. That is not a semantic issue. That should be an industrial plan for nation, industrial plan for continent and as you. And that is something that has been stressed from IPCC scientists as well. So the more we electrify, the less carbon dioxide removal we need, but we need it. And that is the point where we have to start thinking about bioenergy. We have to talk about the role of agriculture, because still the soil is the best place and the more economic place where to put carbon in a safety way. So let's say that talking about bioenergy scalability, just for the energy sector, for us is like an endless discussion if we keep constrained inside the energy basket. But we have to start thinking how we can enhance ecologically the photosynthesis in the EU agriculture, improving the soil fertility, first of all. And this is a much more fruitful discussion. And to be honest, this is also what the Green New Deal approach, the goals of the Green New Deal. And let me just focus on two words that are growth and innovative. So basically, we need to have strategies that move to grow, not that are regressive. We need to have with innovative solution. So the first question is, we have to fight in agriculture emission, or we have to fight production? We think we need to fight emission. And that's the answer to the question. Agriculture part of the solution or still a problem? There are too many are still thinking that agriculture is just a problem and the only solution is to cut production. We think that food security and energy security are two faces of the same coin. And this is something that is on the definition of circular economy. Circular economy means producing more with less. If we want to shift from an economy based on fossil carbon to biogenic carbon, we need more biogenic carbon to produce more food, to produce more energy, and we have to produce their carbon in an environmental safety way. So this is our main goals. And also the IPCC report stressed the fact that that agriculture is part of the solution, and we already have enough land to face all our problems, but we need action. We need action. And why we say that anaerobic digestion has got a pivotal role in the transition. Basically because it's a pattern-free technology that help to concentrate in a safety way biomasses, contribute to eco-intensification of the land, because we can produce also, we can cover the land because we've got another market. We can use the manure and the agricultural byproduct that are today a problem becoming a solution. And we can have a safety, we can contribute to different energy market, to a farm level. So at the end of the anaerobic digestion, we have the digestate, which is a very important fertilizer. And we don't have to, we have to ask ourselves that if we want to reduce the ammonia, the fossil fertilizer, how can we still produce if we don't increase the organic fertilizer? How can we achieve the 25% of in EU of biological production on 25% of EU land if we don't increase the anaerobic fertilizer? Because if we don't have this, we will have less production. I don't think this is our goal. So we believe that anaerobic digestion is a very important technology to help Europe, but not a technology. It's an important solution, because we don't have to talk about technology, but about solution to reach net zero carbon. As I said, anaerobic digestion helps to farmers to mitigate emission from livestock effluent. Don't forget, we don't have to forget that the biggest role of emission in agriculture are not CO2, are basically CH4 and ammonia, first of all. Anaerobic digestion drive farmers to keep the soil covered the whole year, applying new and improved crop rotation with a larger fraction of nitrogen, fixing crops and other double crops. anaerobic digestion gives farmers an organic fertilizer, as I said, and drives farmers to shift from deep ploughing to precision farming and minimum tillage agriculture. So the main thing is that we have the solution, and that force the farmer to also improve technology in the practice, in the traditional practice. And that's what this project we launched in Italy, but I think it's something that is we launched quite in a few months in Brussels as well, with the contribution of Farm Europe. We want to, we call it farming for future. Basically, those are 10 actions that for us are very, very important to improve, to help farmers to reduce emission, and in the same time to keep the production. So as you said, some of the, as you can see, some of those measures as a direct benefit of improving anaerobic digestion in the farms. Some other are just nothing to deal with the anaerobic digestion. But the idea is that we need to produce bioenergy, and we need to change the way we produce. So if we don't change the way we produce, that is the key question. And obviously this need to be faced with resources and improving new technologies. So it's very important that the next generation EU in different countries has got a clear mission to help farmers to do those innovations. Obviously, it's something that we are ready to this challenge. Those are some of the machinery that we are using to increase the organic fertilization of the digested in Italy. But we need to stress the fact that we have to work and keep a different way of working with the soil. And obviously, if the soil is the focus of our action, farmers are its keepers. So basically, if the soil is the first answer to the climate crisis, farmers need to be part of this solution. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Piero, for your presentation. I liked what you said about the importance of growth and innovation, and in particular that when you said that we need to fight emissions, not reduce production, and the role that anaerobic digestion has to promote precisely that fight on emissions. So now, if we might turn to questions and answers, I have two. I'm going to read them out. I'm afraid, Jorge, but that happens quite often when we have the Commission present in webinars. The two questions are addressed to you, but I also welcome others if they would like to intervene. So we have one question which is not directly on the issue that we are debating, but it has a linkage, so I'm going to put it forward. The question is whether you, Jorge, could be more specific about the carbon farming initiative that you mentioned in your intervention, and what are your thoughts regarding a market-based instrument and how it could coexist with the CAP. That is one question. And the other is about what you yourself, you mentioned also in your intervention, and Ms. Sander as well, about taxonomy and the taxonomy regulation. And it's in particular regarding the follow-up regulation on taxonomy that was leaked recently, and where in the technical criteria for biofuels it excludes food and feed crops. And the question is, why is that? What is the factual or scientific support for that? And why is the Commission going beyond the sustainability criteria of REDII 2? So I invite you, Jorge, if you wish to respond, and others, if they wish to comment, they are welcome after. Please, Jorge.
Thank you, João, and thank you for the questions, which I will try to answer to the best as possible, given also the timing, because this is, I think, it's an issue of timing, and I think it's on both questions. On the first one, on the carbon farming, I'm actually quite excited about this because I think it encapsulates and it basically can reflect. It's a very good illustration of this win-win approach that some of us were mentioning that we can have, and it's there. Agriculture is a solution to a number of issues and challenges that we currently face. And I think the Carbon Farming Initiative reflects this. We are still in early stages in terms of our thinking of what this will be. And when I mentioned that this is a question of timing as well, it's obviously because the final shape of what we will have as part of this initiative will have to take into account what will be some of our decisions in terms of, for instance, the revision of the land use change and forestry legislation, but also, of course, the effort sharing regulation. So until we know where agriculture as a sector and the agricultural emissions as a sector will fall exactly, what would be the landing zone, I don't think we can advance much in terms of our thinking on the carbon farming. Also, in the same regard, I would say on whether this will translate into some sort of a market-based mechanism. I think it's still very early stages for us to be speaking about this. Also, because even after what we will have as part of our revision of the LULUCF and the effort sharing regulation, we are also preparing an initiative on carbon certification, which of course will be key if we want to have a more sharp carbon farming initiative. So I'm afraid I cannot elaborate a lot more. I just wanted to highlight that it's important that you are aware that we are considering this, and we are considering this as a sort of optimistic initiative in this sector. But stay tuned. We might have more about this. I think after summer probably we'll have a bit more detail. On the taxonomy, again, it's a question of timings. I can't possibly comment on what are leaked documents, rumors, hearsay. No, I think even today there's a meeting of the expert group, of an expert group of member states discussing some of these issues. So just, I think it's important to understand that, of course, there are different views on where our ambition will fall. Of course, we are very much aware that what will be as part of the taxonomy will have to be consistent of what we have as our sustainability criteria, part of the REDII 2, which I think is already very high in terms of environmental considerations. So we are very much aware that there needs to be some consistency there. Where exactly this will fall, I think it will be soon decided. It is a political decision also. It is a decision that different services, different commissioners are looking at, even as we speak about it. So it will be for me a bit premature to comment on this. But to say that for us, I think it's clear that we would want to see a bit of alignment with the REDII criteria, and of course we want also to make sure that whatever we have is also feasible in terms of the operators taking it and the institutional investors and investors at large taking it forward. I hope I've answered a bit, at least, on the two questions.
Well, I think you answered what you could answer, and you gave some good indications. Thank you, Jorge. I don't know if others want to comment, Benjamin?
Yes, Joao, if you permit me, yes, thank you. About taxonomy, I think there is two important points. First of all, there is a legislative point with the RED II, and what the delegated act about taxonomy could write about the possibility, the legal possibility it could give, cannot go further than the consolidated legislation with RED II. This is really a big point. And the second fact is it will be a political fault not to consider that crops that are working with the sun energy and the CO2 of the atmosphere are not renewable, are not green, are not, well, it's completely not understandable that such a natural and a renewable process could not be qualified as renewable. And you, as representative of the Agricultural Commission, well, you have to explain it to the financial representative of Commission, because I don't know if they're sufficiently aware of the natural processes we are working with.
Well, thank you, Benjamin. Jorge, you want to say a word?
Well, point taken. Of course, being here, I have the Commission position also, and to say that this is not there yet. So point taken. I'll bring this forward to the different colleagues that are involved in the specifics of these discussions, obviously. And this is also the interest for me to come here, is also to hear from you.
Thank you, Jorge. I have a question. It's also not a very direct question, but it's an important one in terms of narrative. It's addressed to our two farmers, Benjamin and Piero, and it's on the story, the narrative between intensification of agriculture and protection of biodiversity. And when we're talking about production of biogas or biofuels, sometimes criticize that as being part of the intensification of agriculture and question what is the impact on biodiversity. So what can you say in terms of the narrative on this? Benjamin, Pierre, I don't know who wants to start.
Yes, I could start, yes, if you want. Well, if I take some example on my farm, I am able in my farm to use biodiversity in different way. First, in the variety of the crops I'm using on my fields. So this is the first way. But there is also a functional biodiversity that is surrounding my fields that is interesting and important. And I think in the future, it will become more interesting and more important, but we still don't know really how to use it to help us to change our way of producing in a more agroecologic way. So it's an emerging question, I think, It's an important question, and it's also part of the solution. Biodiversity is also part of the solution for farmers, but we need some more knowledge, some more experiments, some science and practice to improve these things. Another point is also biodiversity is also threatened by climate change, and with intensive agriculture, you have the more you produce, the more you let to the soil, and the more you get carbon in your soil. So you can also mitigate the climate change effects by intensive agriculture. So I think it's a new way to see the agriculture in the future. Our job will change in the future, and biodiversity is one point of this change in the coming times.
Thank you, Benjamin. Piero, you want to say something, to add something?
Yes, I think the field in which we have to discuss with Greens obviously is not the field of intensification. It's the field of eco-intensification. It's completely different things. Obviously, to work to change the paradigm and to work in a different way. For example, I can say, as Benjamin said in his farm, my farm now is basically 75% of my farm has got double cropping. So basically 70% of my farm is completely covered all the year round. And that is possible because I need the feed for my herds, and I need also another crops to integrate the manure and produce bioenergy. So I think the field in which we have all tried to think is that there's no biodiversity in general, there's no food or energy crops in general, is actually how we use the land, the difference, no? How we farm. And that's, as I said in my presentation, that is why I think Jorge has got, is very important, this carbon farming concept that the Commission are developing, and that is very important because we need to measure. We started as farmers, start measuring, you know, how the soil content increases after 5-10 years of using digestate and doing double cropping, so we can demonstrate that we are not just producing more, but we are losing less chemical fertilizer, we are losing less water, we are losing, and we are keeping more carbon in the soil. So this is the big goals we have as a sector. But to do this, we need to have technology, because without technology, you can't do this. Then obviously, that is the field in which we have to open a very deep discussion, and that's what I think we need to do.
Thanks, Piero. Well, I think we came to the end of the question and answer session, and now it's time to listen to your wrap-up comments, Ms. Ansander, whenever you're ready.
Yes, thank you for this very interesting exchange. I think we will have other discussion on this topic, of course, and I think we agreed on the fact that to realize the Green Deal ambition, which is very important for our continent, of course, we need agriculture, we need biofuels, and I like a lot the idea to say that you said it, Piero Gattoni, it's the two faces of a same coin. If we want food safety, we have also the energy safety, and this is, I think, something on which we have to communicate. In general, I think we need really to have a better communication in the different countries, and especially in France. The role and the place of agriculture now is really discussed. And I think we should better fight against the prejudices people have on the agriculture. And we have to explain really what we said all, that agriculture is a piece of the solution. I would also say that we have a lot to do to be in a optic where we are not punishing agriculture, but we are really, and this is especially in the taxonomy, but also in other politics, we have to recognize and to encourage. And for this, of course, we need also a budget for, we need money for this. Of course, we have the CAP. We are discussing about the CAP now, especially this week, but we need also the recovering funds. We have the general framework at the European level, but now member states have to do the work and to put money in this transition and in the good technologies. And of course, we need also private funds. And here the role of the taxonomy is very, very important to organize these funds in the good direction. And we should not let on the side some sectors or some technology, but really to encourage. I think we have, to conclude, we have also to be consistent in our commercial policy. The importance of oil palm under false name should be strictly forbidden. We shall not accept any loopholes on this issue and indirectly contribute to deforestation on other parts of the world. I think this is also something which is important for our citizens. So I really hope we will continue to collaborate with the Commission on the RED revision during the following months to find the better way to encourage the agriculture contribution to the decarbonation. It could be a boost and a benefit for our agriculture, and it's important also to keep a very close contact with the professional sector, with our agriculture, with our farmers, because you took some very, very good initiative, and this will help us, of course, in our reflection. And of course, the Parliament will be very involved on all these matters in the next months. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sander, for this wrap-up comments, and thank you for bringing also to the fore the important issue of imported deforestation and the importance of having real, actual biofuels, not biofuels that are sustainable biofuels. I mean, not those that contribute to deforestation in other parts of the world being imported into Europe and tainting the biofuels produced in Europe, which is a very important point for us. So I think we had, all in all, a very informative session today. I hope it's clearer for everybody the positive role that agriculture can have in decarbonizing energy in Europe and in contributing to the European Green Deal. And again, thank you very much for all the speakers. And thank you very much also for all the participants today. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, thank you.